Hi, hello, welcome back. Today I am so excited to be here because I'm going to be talking about my May reading wrap up. So, in the month of May, I actually read 13 books. 11 of them were full-length novels and 2 of them were novellas. I feel like May was definitely an interesting month for me because I think it was technically my lowest average book rating month. There were a couple books that I really liked, a lot of books that I would consider mid, and definitely a few misses for me. And when I say mid books, I mean I liked them, I just didn't absolutely love them. So without further ado, let's get on to what I read in the month of May. To kick off May, I finished A Quarter Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I actually read a lot of it in the previous month, but finished it in May. This is the, fifth book in the ACOTAR series, and it is all in Nesta's perspective. I do have a full reading vlog on this book, so I'm not going to go into too many details of my thoughts on it, but let's just say it was my least favorite in the ACOTAR series so far. Don't get me wrong, I liked it. I liked some parts of it, but a lot of parts I did not like and or annoyed me, or I thought they were just unnecessary or unneeded to the book overall. This book is all about her redemption arc, and I feel like it was a good start to her redemption arc, but it just felt uncompleted. I felt like there could have been more. Like I said, I liked it, rated it 3 stars. Not my favorite in the whole entire series, but what can you do? Then I read The Raven Boys, which is part of the Raven Cycle series. I actually borrowed this from my library, so good for me on that one. This book is a YA paranormal romance. It follows the main character, Blue. Yes, her name is Blue, I know. And basically her entire family are psychics or clairvoyant or have some sort of paranormal ability, and she does not have that. But essentially all of her life she's been told that she will be the cause of death for her true love. And that never really truly bothered her until one day she meets this boy and his friends. They essentially go on this big paranormal quest adventure. It was really cool. I feel like the premise of it doesn't really do it justice because this book had such a unique concept and had found family. All of the characters were super unique and distinct from each other, and I thought they were so well written too. I really liked the plot. I just thought it was so cool and such a wonderful surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this book as much. My only complaint about it is that in the beginning, the writing kind of felt a little bit clunky, and I don't know if it was because it was actually clunky or I was just trying to get used to the writing style of the author. But I will say the more I read on, the less I noticed, and I just got into the flow of the book. I really liked it. I rated it 4.5 stars. I think you should definitely pick this one up. It was such a wonderful surprise for me. Then I read The 100 Loves of Juliet. This is a contemporary romance read, and this one had such a cool premise. It basically explores the idea what if Romeo and Juliet were real people? And at the end of Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, Juliet does end up dying, but Romeo ends up living and becoming immortal. And while Romeo is immortal, Juliet essentially reincarnates as a new person throughout time, hence the title of the book. But like I said, such a unique and interesting and creative concept. The concept alone sold me completely on why I needed to read this book. But even though it had a really good concept, I just thought some things in the book could have been executed a little bit differently or better. There's this one plot line with a certain character that felt completely unnecessary to the book, and at times, especially towards the end, just made the book feel really cheesy. Also, I wasn't really convinced that the Romeo character, Sebastian, was truly in love with the Juliet character, Helen. I felt like he loved Juliet overall, but I don't know if he specifically loved Helen. But I like the book, just didn't absolutely love it, which is going to be the theme of this video. But if you have the chance to pick up this book or you've been eyeing it for a while, I feel like you should definitely still pick it up and read it. You might like it better than I did. It was such a cool, interesting book. Please pick it up. I hear nobody talk about this book. Then I read The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. This is a sequel to The Family Upstairs, also by Lisa Jewell. I really like The Family Upstairs. I thought it was a good thriller, mystery thriller. It was essentially like a family drama. But The Family Remains really didn't add anything to the overall story. Like, yes, you found out some endings of some of the side characters in the first book, but I felt like it was better left ambiguous. I don't know. It just felt completely unnecessary, and I don't feel like anything new was gained from it. So I ended up rating it 2 stars, which I feel a little bit bad about because I really like Lisa Jewell as an author, and I've liked the other books that I've read by her, but unfortunately this one in particular was a miss for me. Then I reread Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I'm rereading this series because I want to read Taming 7, and I'm really rereading the series for all the Claire and Gibbsy crumbs. This story is another contemporary romance. It follows Johnny and Shannon and just their relationship together, and also follows a lot of Shannon's family struggles and situations that she experiences. It's very heartwarming and endearing, but also very sad and heart-wrenching all at the same time. But as much as I like the book and Johnny and Shannon and just their relationship together, there were a lot of moments that made me cringe, and it just felt a little too Wattpad for me. Don't get me wrong, it felt nostalgic at the same time, but I felt like some parts I just had to erase from my mind and memory. So I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars when I first read it, and I'm gonna keep the same rating after I reread it. Then I read When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is another contemporary romance. It follows the main character Amelia, or Ray Rose, and she is a celebrity. Ray Rose is her stage name, and she is getting tired of her celebrity life and fame, and she really struggles with all of that in her career. So she takes an impromptu break and goes on a road trip to Rome, Kentucky. Now you may be wondering why Kentucky and why Rome, Kentucky, and it's because she is Audrey Hepburn's #1 fan, and she loves the movie When in Rome, and the closest Rome to her was Rome, Kentucky. But when she gets into town, her car ends up breaking down. Of course, it breaks down in front of a house, and the owner of the house is, of course, this handsome stranger man, and the story kind of just takes off from there. Now, I did like it, but I wasn't very personally connected to the main characters and just their romance and relationship together. I did like the small town vibes and just the friendships and family along the way, but I don't know. Something was just a little bit missing for me for that book, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I read The Heartless Hunter, which is a fantasy romance. This one was definitely marketed as an enemies to lovers, and I don't think it was that. Essentially, the book is about a witch and a witch hunter, so inherently they're supposed to be enemies. They're not supposed to like each other, but I feel like they weren't really enemies. Literally, right off the bat, they had this perceived dislike for one another, but then they would act on their attraction right away. So I don't know. I feel like they weren't true enemies. Also, I felt like the plot mattered at the beginning and then was completely not important throughout the rest of the book until the very end. And then when you get to the end, you're like, wait, I don't care about the plot anymore, because the whole middle of the book, we didn't talk about the plot, or we didn't care as much about it. I don't know. It just felt a little bit weird. Also, if you read this book, please let me know if you were also confused about what time period the book was set in. They talk about having candles on the wall and holding lanterns, but then another side character gave an analogy about electricity. So I'm confused. Also, the main character, Rune, the witch, she was also a socialite, and she would throw these parties and gatherings and describe herself as wearing these like ball gowns, but then she would also be wearing bralettes and leggings. So I was like, where are you getting these clothes? I'm so confused. I don't know where I'm at anymore. That was honestly such a minor complaint in the grand scheme of things, but I was just so confused by it. Then I read Magnolia Parks, The Long Way Home, and man, this was such a devastating read. I really liked the beginning of this book as well. I feel like you get a lot more context and explanation behind the situations that happen in the first book, Magnolia Parks. Not to say that character actions were completely justified, you just get a deeper understanding of the characters and the situations at hand, which I felt like was necessary and really insightful as well. The middle kind of dragged on just because it was the usual BS, the usual back and forth of Magnolia and BJ, and the ending made me so happy, but also so sad. I feel like all the happiness was just ripped away from me. So thank you, Jessa Hastings. But if you couldn't tell, I love this book. I love the characters. I love Magnolia. She's so funny. She's so great. She cracks me up every single time. She is really the spotlight of this book and the series. She is that girl. But yeah, obviously really liked it. Rated it 4.5 stars. Loved it, loved the book, loved the series. Then for the rest of the month, I basically read the Shatter Me series. Of course, starting with Shatter Me. I have a whole reading vlog of reading Shatter Me for the first time, so I'm not gonna talk about a lot of my thoughts here. Please watch the video. Essentially, like I said, the theme of this video is I like this book, but I didn't absolutely love it, and that was definitely the case of Shatter Me and just the series overall. Shatter Me in particular felt very 2010s. It felt very Tumblr. It felt very a product of its time. So a part of it was very nostalgic to read, but also it could have been better. And then this is where I messed up my reading order, because next I read Unravel Me, but I should have read Destroy Me? Yeah, Destroy Me. See, this is why I hate that all the books in this series have something me as the title, because I get them all confused. I kind of messed up the reading order because I read the second book, Unravel Me, next. I liked it more than Shatter Me. Didn't absolutely love it. Felt a little bit like a filler book, but I thought it was better. Then I read Destroy Me, which is essentially the events between Shatter Me and Unravel Me, but in Warner's perspective. I didn't feel like this novella was necessary. It was definitely ramping up his redemption arc story, but I felt like it was done better in Unravel Me because he was talking to Juliet about it, and Juliet is essentially the one that was harmed by his actions. Destroy Me, just, I don't know, I didn't really like it that much. Please don't hate me for that. I wish it was just wrapped up into the book themselves and not this whole separate novella. Then I read Fracture Me, which is basically the ending of Unravel Me, but in Adam's perspective. And Adam, I don't want to be in his perspective. It's such a scary place to be in, honestly. Not a good time, but that's not why I gave it a lower rating. I just thought, like I said, it was just unnecessary. I wish it was just tied up into the book themselves and not this whole separate novella. So I gave both the novellas 2 stars, but if you like them, I can definitely see why you like them. They just weren't for me. And to finish off the month, I read Ignite Me, which is the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series. I am so out of breath of talking. But I read Ignite Me. If you want my full thoughts on this too, I actually read it in the video where I let a random number generator pick the amount of pages that I read for that day, and I read Ignite Me in that one. But overall, I like this one the best out of Shatter Me and Unravel Me. It definitely was the most fast-paced book out of the series, and it made me feel a lot of different emotions. A lot of them were negative, but definitely at a certain character. If you know, you know. But yeah, I felt like it was the best out of the series. I read it super fast. I don't know. It was a fun time. I had a fun time reading it. So far, I like the Shatter Me series. I don't absolutely love it, but I do like it. So I'm going to continue on reading it because I want to know what happens next. But anyways, that wraps up all the books that I read in May. And I really have to thank the Shatter Me series for helping me get to the number of books that I read, because the series overall were such quick reads for me. And I don't know, it just helped me to read more books because I got through them so fast. If you made it this far and you listened to me yap about books for so long, thank you so much. Let me know what your favorite book of May or your least favorite book of May was. I would love to know. Have a conversation about it maybe. But anyways, if you want to follow me elsewhere, I'm also on TikTok, I'm also on Instagram, I'm also on Goodreads, all the same account name. It's Maddie Read 6. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.